And good evening and welcome to City Focus. And I'm absolutely delighted to have for the end of the year program to welcome back my friend and yours, Mike McLaughlin. And,
when I think about tonight, and there's two things that I do. I listen to Lee Elsie and I watch your show. But tonight, I'm really starting to think this is city out of focus. Okay, if anybody can't see, I've got green and gold on tonight for a reason, which we'll get to. Okay, because this for some reason bugs me more than what taxes are, bugs me more than who works for what in what school system. This bugs me severely, but we'll get into it. And I would really love for one night, callers, if you're watching, call in, because this is a super thing. If we give this up, we're close to giving everything up.
Well, there's been a couple of columns by local scribe Mike Tomorrow.
Yep.
On the topic at hand that has got you revved up tonight, and that has got to do with green and gold.
Yep.
And with New London High School dispatching with the longtime colors that some of us old timers hold near and dear.
Yeah. Well, see, here's what happens. Okay. When I say it, or you say it, many people in New London will just assume that we're against the black because we're not. Okay? When Tommy Major stands up and says he doesn't want to see it, then indeed it is an item.
Well, it's not just Tommy.
Yeah, I know, but I mean
Juan Roman.
Oh, without doubt.
There are many alums who've played ball, not just football, but we're talking football players, basketball players or whatever.
Baseball.
That hold the New London colors reverentially.
And, green.
And it's had a meaning.
It's made us different from any other high school there were. It made us New London. New London was either New London or the green and the gold. They were synonymous with each other. They were so important. And there's no reason for us not to have them anymore because it represents so many great players, so many pro players, so many guys who played so many things in so many sports, okay, who were proud of the fact they played for the green and the gold.
Yeah. And and it spawned a lot of this I believe back in the early 60s when you also had when Lombardi and the Packers was having their terrific run. And our colors were the same as the Packers, and we tried to live up to that.
Yes. Coach Bunicor brought it in. He didn't bring green and gold in, but he pushed it, okay, when they were doing it, and Coach Lombardi and all the rest. And our teams were wonderful back there. I could list players over and over and over. But I think the most ironic thing is one of the people who lived in New London, who didn't get to play for New London, now has green and gold with the Packers.
Mr. Dillon.
Yeah.
A.J. Dillon.
Yeah. I mean, and it's such a big thing. I mean, for them to give a story of the uniforms got ruined in the wash. Nobody looked at them for a year, okay? That they had to order something. Well, why don't they order green and gold? I think, I'm not the head of UPS, don't get me, but I think they can deliver green and gold ones as fast as they can black ones. And to say all this stuff, and then to say the kids like them. Well, wait a minute. When did the kids have control of the coaches, okay, or the administration of what was going on at that school? I mean, right now, it's a shame because you have to struggle if you're old, to see even New London on the school. I mean, no. When I went to high school back when dinosaurs were on the face of the earth, I'll say that, we had all the kids from East Lyme, all the kids from Montville, because they had no high schools, went to not such co-op school, New London High School. And that's what it was. And I say this, and you know, as a New Londoner, and I think that people should start to rise up, because there's been plenty of people who have parlayed the fact of the green and gold, who've gone on to do wonderful things in this world. I mean, if you look at the lawyers in town, some of the doctors in town, some of the people who have major jobs over the years are all New London people who played sports for the green
Well,
and
we
gold.
were discussing a few before we came on the air tonight, and one gentleman whose name I would want to make sure that we mention tonight, who just recently passed away,
Oh, yes.
is John Contoulis,
Unbelievable.
who was a defensive tackle who played for the Giants.
And UConn. He was complete. Yeah, I think unless I'm wrong, he may have gone into the service for a little bit before college. Then he played for UConn. Then he played for the Giants. Yes, matter of fact, to be honest with you, I saw him play a game against the Packers at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
And John Contoulis was a exceptional track person, because he ended up coaching track over at Fitch. And he was just a big, huge, talented football player.
Yeah.
That's when you didn't get 32 teams or 30 teams in the NFL. There was like 16. When you made it, you had to be someone. And he was part of the Giants.
Yep. In the early 63, 64
yes.
era, I believe.
Yes. And we wish him nothing but the best. I mean, having passed away, we wish him nothing but, you know, happiness and things.
Yeah. Well, I met John when I was 16 years old. One of my first jobs was as a lifeguard at the beach as a 16-year-old, and they had at the time a night pool. So the pool was open later in the evening,
Yes.
and John and I were the lifeguards for a night pool. And he was a terrific guy. He treated me wonderfully and with respect. And the only time I've ever been on a full-size motorcycle was with him.
That must have been, you would have had to have been on a full-size one with him, because as
Not
big
one of the
as he
little
was.
scooters, but I mean, it's the only time I've ever been. Obviously he drove, and I was the passenger. But it's just.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I mean, yeah, you know, if we just went on, and the people who played for New London, and the people who had success at New London, and it's not just baseball was significant. Football has been significant. Basketball has been significant. Ladies basketball has come on the scene. And it's not because there probably weren't talented women going there, it's they didn't have teams for the women prior. And, you know, you just look at this situation of people who have performed in this community. Now, granted, this community used to be over 50,000 people. It's now maybe 27, but still, it had people, and there are still people.
Yeah.
who are
Well,
spectacular.
London had a World War II boom.
Yes.
Population growth. I mean, 45, 50,000
Yeah.
during the war years, and I know as a youngster, I think we looked at it around 32 or 33. Then it shrunk probably 10,000. It's
Yep.
bounced back a little bit, but the quality of people who have played sports, but also have been fine contributors to society and the community.
Like I said, the doctors, the lawyers, and people who used to be on the city council, people who were honorary mayors because we had a city manager, including yourself. Okay, and this is the type of situation that we're tending to forget. Okay, New London is something because of the people who made it something. It isn't something that we did so wrong that everybody just has to change. Okay, it's like you think about this town, and at the end of this town is Ocean Beach. You know, and you have 3 colleges in this town. With 27,000 people, you have 3.
In 6 square miles.
Yes, all right. And you have a magnificent hospital. You used to have for all my Jewish friends, one of the most magnificent synagogues ever, okay, that they've turned into be a school where my grandson goes. And but I mean, they had all that. Catholic churches were things. The Italian Dramatic Club, okay, it used to be where everybody was promoting everybody to help something. And, you know, I mean, when I first realized I had better wake up to what's going on is when I drove past New London EB and stopped at the light and thought I missed something, which was a statue of Columbus. Now, you can call me all about Columbus, you can get all about it, but also, we have to look at what he did. If he doesn't found this wonderful nation, where are any of us? Over in Europe someplace. Or I'm in Ireland, and you're probably in whatever group that you're.
I'm good Scandinavian stock.
There you go. I didn't know which of the Scandinavians it was.
From Norway in particular.
I was going to say Norway. And that's the point. Not that there's anything wrong with those places, but we've come to London. And people just, you know, I don't know, I guess it's just easy for one to close his eyes and to say, oh, you know. But, you know, when you think about it, in your show, City Focus, focusing on this city, okay? And it's hard to be called a city now with as few people as we have. In most cases now, if we were developing our political system, we'd be a town.
Yeah, well, we're not big enough to be a city.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And New London High School, what that used to be, oh my.
Yeah.
And when
See,
you went to-
and you've got me by a couple of years, because when I was in school, we had the Salem kids that came to New London.
Yep.
They did grammar school and junior high up in Salem, but they came down to New London for high school. So, I mean, East Lyme, Waterford, Montville, all had their
Own high
schools by the time I got to high school.
But you can't imagine.
But they weren't competing with us athletically. Waterford was, but
Yeah.
East Lyme, Montville, Ledyard
Yeah.
were not. The local schools that we competed against in the 60s and
NFA.
70s was NFA and Fitch,
Fitch.
Waterford, St. Bernard's,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Hartford Public, Hartford Weaver. Okay, I mean, you could just go over the East Hartford, because I remember you would go up. I never played, so I would be lying to you, but if you went to the game, you always went up to what was the big hot dog stand in East Hartford.
Augies and Rays.
That every time New London played in New Haven, if you're in the Hartford, if you're on the bus, you stop there. It's right. That's where the UConn.
Still there.
UConn football field is right by there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you could think, let me just go through. I was hurt every minute that I went there because all I had was casts on me. But when I was a senior, Dave Connors, who went to Purdue, was the quarterback. Unfortunately for him, at the same time, Bob Greasy went to Purdue. So Dave later transferred to Wake Forest. Billy Foy, who was a great running back, went to Amherst, okay, and had a tryout for the Miami Dolphins, played one of the running backs, okay. We also had Louis Burchill, who was the single toughest guy that I ever knew in my life. As a freshman, he played against Fitch with a broken nose without a face mask, okay. We had Gordon Bryson, who came in from Hawaii, who used to play basketball with we kids over at Harbor School barefooted on a basketball court. We had Richie Pettifleur, who was unbelievable. Bobby Martin, who became a judge, was the center. And he was the single toughest guy in the football team. You couldn't believe Billy McCarthy, who played football for 1 year and got a full scholarship to the University of North Carolina to play fullback. I mean, in the different other players that they came in, Ernie Douglas and all the other players, Johnny Ellis, who was a younger player on that team. Okay, and
I played with John Ellis's brother Dave, and he was tough as nails.
Dave was tight, defensive end. I think he became a Marine forever. And when you think about the kids that played, I mean, they were unbelievable of who they were and how they played. And you had mentioned one who played prior to us, Billy Butchka, who ended up being, just like when I did the Ledyard Fitch game this year, Ledyard ran a single wing. Well, Billy Butchko ran a single wing for us against NFA on one Thanksgiving Day. And New London was so that Fitch did not have a field that was big enough. So every year, New London Fitch was down by where Burger King is, okay? Where they played Morgan
Veterans
Park.
Field, Morgan Park Veterans Field.
Okay, and then you'd go to that game, and then they had a great basketball league in New London called the City League, where EB, FISA got all these ex-college players, and you'd went there because it opened. And it was like unbelievable, the situation that was going on. And if people don't know where they played the City League at Ocean Beach, it's where you eat all your food now in the big
It's a banquet
restaurant.
hall.
Yeah, when those windows.
Mort Jeffers was big in running that league.
Oh, was he big? He coached the Lincoln Oilers. And he had some unbelievable players that he got. And one of his players Jack DeShot Foley, for those Holy Cross fans, he played in that league because he was in the National Guard and the Coast Guard. But one of the guys, Coast Guard guys, got mad and almost threw a guy out of the big windows. But, and that was how these things, were people tough? Yes, they were tough. Okay? And things were a different way. That doesn't mean better. Oh, who knows? But things were a different way. And people understood. The thing is, people didn't say, I don't understand why this is happening. Or I don't understand who these 7 people on the Board of Education are. Or I don't know who 3 of these people on the City Council are. Okay, no. You know who everybody was. Okay? You liked him, you didn't like him, that was okay. Rod Gaynor was an unbelievable football player at New London High School till they found out. They thought he had a kidney injury, and he found out he only had 1 kidney. Well, what a football player. He was a freshman. And his brother Danny was a very good basketball player till he got his eye almost ripped out up at Ocean Avenue Park. Or James Johnson Courts, which they're named now. But that's the thing. We all cared about everybody in situations. And people came from all parts of the town to do the things. And,
well, that City League had, it's kind of like the old Morgan League, had some terrific ball players. I mean, Wayne Lawrence playing there. I mean, I don't know if he made the team, but I know he had a look-see with the Celtics.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Wayne Lawrence was the last cut of the Celtics. Wayne Lawrence went to Stonington, was the all-time scorer. They won a state championship. He then went to Texas A&M, played for them for 3 years because freshmen couldn't play then. He was the last cut of the Celtics when they only had like 16 teams in the NBA. And guess who the Celtics kept? John Thompson.
Played at Providence.
Yeah. Oh, tough player there, obviously. Georgetown coach for them. But Wayne Lawrence would play. They had a guy named Ronnie Bird. EB would hire guys and have them play. Okay. Pfizer, the same way. Phil Jones he was a later coach at Stonington. What a basketball player he was. Art Quimby came back from UConn to play. He was unbelievable, and they just had guys that were Ronnie Bertha Savage, who played at Seton Hall, and all of these guys are unbelievable players. The NBA was so small, they didn't have room for them, so the London City League, they all were playing, and they had Lincoln Oil sponsored the team, Norway State Hospital, Electric Boat, Pfizer sponsored the team, and I forget there was a few others.
Well, even now, with 30 teams, there's still only 360 jobs.
Yeah. Imagine that. But you know what amazes me the most?
Let's give kudos to Chris Dunn, who's fought his way back. I mean, after some serious injuries.
Chris Dunn, besides being a gifted basketball player, is a truly magnificent person. In my dealings with athletes, I've known many, okay, by doing their games or being around when they were around. The 3 that I remember the most of is Bobby Martin, because if anybody would have ever told me he was going to be a judge when he got out of high school, I don't know, he'd be judging a hamburger eating contest, but he thought he was Sam Huff back then. Okay. The second is Johnny Ellis, who people always took the wrong opinion because of that one lobster incident and forget the hundreds of thousands of dollars he had those dinners up at Mohegan Sun where the Yankees would come in, and all of that money went to people who had people in other areas.
cancer
and for
research.
transfer research and everything like that. I mean, those was unbelievable what Johnny Ellis did with that. And, you know, like I said.
And that expanded
Krista,
beyond the Yankees. I mean, they were getting folks from all
But,
over
I mean, the big thing
Major
that-
League Baseball and beyond.
Yeah, but the big thing was when Mickey Mantle came in. Yeah. And then the other one is Chris Dunn, who does more for this community. Okay, he gives these kids books and everything else along those things, and he has always been an example for kids to be. But there's other ones too. I could tell you about all kinds of other ones that you know what I mean, who've done all kinds of things in our community too. You being a Hall of Famer, just the fact that you talk about these people, bring it up. Okay, other people who played different other sports that were very well, you know. And this is the thing: New London has always had a camaraderie of good people who were good athletes. Has it been all? No, nobody has all. But it's been such a and you can just think, and if you think about it, I mean, Dave Fabricant became a lawyer, okay, and he played basketball for us.
And he served on the city council. I
Yeah.
believe he did a year as mayor.
Yes, he did, as you did. And you know, and all the different other people that do the different things that they have been. I mean, you know, you sit and you look and you think of the people in New London who have made New London what it is. And then you think about the people who have come in and tried to make it different. Where would we be now if we never went to a mayoral form of government? What if we had just said, okay, city manager, you're running this show? Where would we be? Did we go up when we got to mayor? Who knows where we go? We could have been in any direction going anyhow, whenever. But I mean, as a kid, I never was concerned in New London of working downtown. I was never concerned about anything of any nature like that. I remember when I used to fill in up at Jennings just to see how New London was. I'd walk home from Jennings through all of these neighborhoods and see all the guys that I knew from. And it was like an unbelievable situation. And now people say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it's like, I don't know. I think
New London, I mean, has in all candor, I mean, a perception problem. I mean,
Yes.
our neighbors don't frequent the city or downtown.
Yeah.
Things are not the way they were when we were cutting our teeth and growing up in New London. Things have changed. You know, it used to be years ago. It was a Navy town. You had the Fulton and the base, and
EB.
downtown was kind of hell on wheels, Bank Street in particular.
Yeah, but it wasn't dangerous.
But it was what it was. It had a reputation. I mean,
And the Navy cleaned it up. The Navy said people can't go from the base to here. But I mean, I'm saying you knew where you were. Okay, if you were a New Londoner, you weren't going to be bothered. Okay, people didn't bother native New Londoners. Okay, because it was always, and it's not anything negative that I'm saying, there was always the pink building over there by Fort Trumbull, which is still there, which could solve any of the issues that they wanted to solve whenever they wanted to. And it was just a situation where it used to be so much fun to go to Ocean Beach. It used to be so much fun to go to the dances at the YMCA, which is down by the Guard Theater now. It used to be so, you know what I mean? We were able to float around this city as though there were nothing. And now people tell us we can't. I saw the biggest traffic jam that I've ever seen in London on last Friday. I was going down, it was like 6:30 in the morning. I was going to Montville High School, and I was going down Bank Street. And when you get to end of Bank, where you're going to go, but traffic all over the place. Either the lights, the gates broke down, or a train come in, and there was no place that anybody could go. And you know, people couldn't come down. People couldn't go around. And oh, gosh, oh, golly. What a mess that was. And I've never seen that before. As many times I've been down that road. It could have been a train came in late and they had to block the thing. And it could have been at the same time the ferry was supposed to be, you know what I mean? And think about it. I mean, I can remember when I would play basketball with Johnny Ellis up at Riverside Park. Or a big deal would be the Yale-Harvard boat rate to go down to Riverside Park and watch it. You know, and I can remember, too, one summer when I worked at EB when I was going to college, there was only one bridge.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, there was only one
Yeah.
bridge.
And you had to pay 15 cents.
There was a toll on the Groton side.
Yeah, go through. And you know, and that was amazing. And you look at all of that stuff and...
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because the construction of the second bridge, which was, I believe, completed by the time I was getting out of high school, which was
Okay.
72, early 70s.
that would be around, I would say.
And as much devastation as urban renewal has done to New London between the Shaw's Cove and the Winthrop
Yeah.
urban renewal redevelopment projects. The construction of the second Gold Star Bridge may have created more havoc
Oh, gosh.
on the community. I mean, East New London was just wiped out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only thing
Good,
that could...
solid blue-collar neighborhoods were just wiped out, and families that were institutions in the community.
Yeah.
Ironically, at that time, New London, you know, they couldn't afford to stay. You know, they get their their funds for their home, but they end up moving to Waterford or Montville, or because at that time the suburbs were
Yeah.
affordable.
Well, I mean, you know, as you look at it, I mean, it wasn't only the bridge. It's when they decided to put Pfizer, and they destroyed that whole New London area, okay? You know what I mean? And that was a whole situation. That was a very prominent living area for those people. And, you know, I mean, it's a shame. I remember when I first met, oh, guy, he lives in East Lyme. He's a great author. He wrote The Little Pink House.
Jeff Benedict.
When I met him, and he was telling me, I says, Jeff, I just wish you had seen it before. Because he was a great athlete. He was a major, when I worked for Congressman Rob Simmons, and when he won, and we were in Washington a while, he was a big proponent of us. And he was, you know, because he wrote the book about Foxwoods, about that one there. And then he wrote, obviously, but his first book, he would always...
Yeah, the Mash and Tuckets weren't too thrilled with him.
Yeah. His first book was called Pros and Cons. It was all of the guys who were convicts who were in the NFL. And then he wrote a great book about Tiger Woods that he gave to me so I could give to Jeff Feldman on his birthday, who was a great, you know. And if those that don't know Jeff Feldman, Attorney Scott was his uncle. So, but these are the different things that people go through. And, you know, when you do this show, and I watch the beginning of the show just to see those old places again, to see how they were. To go to, now you probably didn't have this situation, but to go to Buckley Junior High School.
Well, I did.
Yeah. And when I went, though, it was condemned, so we got out at 1 o'clock. So what do you think happened at that park right across, a little bit up ways? Every day was a fight between, not a fight of a racial fight, but a fight between kids every day. Then we go home for supper. And yeah, because we got out of school at 1 o'clock. And then we went to New London High, which was where the junior high school is now. And
That's where I started high school. It was,
yeah. And what do you think opened the year I went to high school in London? St. Bernard's, which was where the courts houses those are. They were there. And it was a very unique situation because they were the first high school around to use lights because they couldn't play Saturday on our field, so they had to import lights.
Yeah. Well, St. Bernard's, you mentioned too about Ocean Beach and the
Yeah, they
gym. I
played
mean,
there.
St. Bernard's basketball team, that was their home court
Yes, it was.
at Ocean Beach.
And Mr. Dave Connors, who did all the announcing then, and it had to be a long time ago because I've been doing it for 40 years, would have New London schedule a game at 6:15 so he could drive across town to do the St. Bernard's game at 8:15 at the beach. Because New London didn't want to go that late, so they went earlier. And, because Salamonte, he was AD, and Bill O'Brien was the coach. And when you think about these people, they were very significant people. I mean, Mr. Conway, who coached baseball, oh gosh, oh golly. And all of Mr. Foy, who was the principal, oh my. And Mr. Scanlon, who was the superintendent of schools. You think about, and I can remember these people 50-some years later.
I had Scanlon's son as a teacher at the high school.
Yeah.
He taught economics and...
Yeah. His sister, who was Mr. Scanlon's daughter, was in my class, and she was one of the smartest girls, Susan. They came from Massachusetts and came in here. And Mr. Foy, well, if you had Mr. Foy as principal, you had no problems.
And I did.
Yep.
What a book that his son Richie wrote about.
Oh, isn't that fabulous? Richie, when I think about Richie, I was friends with Billy because he was my age. And we'd go over the house, Fabricant and I, Attorney Fabricant. He wasn't an attorney then, we'd go. And we'd play cards and Mr. Foy played. And Richie was just some little person in the back. And then he became such a big guy, and he became the center for UConn. He had a chance to pull it. I'll never forget Richie. The most unique thing about Richie is, remember when we had that semi-pro team that played at St. Bernard's?
Yes.
Yeah. We wanted Richie to play. Now we're talking 20 years ago easily, 30 years ago easily. No, we're talking 50.
More than that.
Yeah. And he says, I'll only play if you pay me big money. I said, okay, Richie, what's big money? He says, $150 a game. I said, Rich. But he never, we had other guys. One guy who played in 2 Super Bowls with the Miami Dolphins played for us. And it was, but the guy who was unbelievable was Leo Ficini. Leo Ficini was unbelievable when he played in that league. And they won. They went undefeated one year. We had Joe Gilliam, who used to be the...
Played with the Steelers.
Yes. He played against us when we got moved out of St. Bernard's Lyme, and we beat them. We went undefeated that season. And they had unbelievable players on that team.
Yeah. There was a semi-pro team that played out of Hartford up at Dillon Stadium, too.
Yeah. Yes, there was. Well, it wasn't, guys had to play somewhere. But what I'm saying is this, is the New London is, and always has been, for many of the people who live in this town, a tradition-bound area. There's nothing wrong with following different traditions, okay? The fact that you have a certain road race every year, the fact that you swim over from Fisher's Island once a year, the fact that you have basketball at Ocean Beach at the Thanksgiving night, the fact that you have all of the other, that you light certain wreaths around certain areas and certain, and it's really an interesting situation because the place that has fought hard to keep a lot of these traditions is the God Theater.
Yeah,
I mean,
Steve and Gene Siegel do a terrific job.
You can't imagine it. Gene Siegel,
and you're up there all the time.
Yeah,
I mean,
I used to be a big-time proponent of Mohegan. Whenever a show came in at Mohegan, I was never a big fan of Foxwoods, but it hadn't anything to do with Foxwoods. Was not a fabulous place. It's the fact, and Fox was going to be a fabulous place when they open this Water World, this Indian Water World. I think that'll be unbelievable. But it was always more convenient to go to Mohegan. I go to shows, and all of a sudden I started going to Guard. I said, wait a minute, I drive from where I live to Tony D's, eat, park there, go to the show, get in the car, go home 10 minutes. But the shows were unbelievable. Like I go to I just hooked up for some more shows and they have a great thing. I don't know if there's any tickets left, but for $65, you can get a ticket for all 23 of their movies that they're having in the winter season, and they are either you have an Oscar nominee for actor, actress, director is in straight. I mean, for 23 shows for $6, and they're going to have more. So if they have 30, you still get the ticket for that for $65. So that's $2 a ticket. Person. I mean, and it's unbelievable. It's a wonderful place to see the things, and I love going to the different shows. I mean, I've gone to. I
saw you. I didn't get a chance to say hello to you, but I saw you. I don't know, 6-8 weeks ago at the Bruce Hornsby.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you what, I wouldn't even have known who Bruce Hornsby was, but I mean, then I listen. Well, my favorite show was the guy's son, Jim Croce's son. What a show he put on. And see, it's all because of the seats I have there too. But the God Theater is such a beneficial thing to London. I think we can't say enough about the Seagulls for the great job that they do. Okay, and it's not outrageous in price. It's not, you know what I mean? And so maybe they may not get all of the superstars, but their tribute bands are the best tribute bands that you can get. I mean, I have.
Well, they've gotten some top flight.
Oh yes.
I mean, they had
Mandy Patinkin. When I saw him,
Lindsey Buckingham's been in there.
Oh,
I mean,
Lindsey Buckingham. I'll tell you that when he left Fleetwood Mac, one of the first shows he did was at the God Theater because I think he wanted to try out to sing. And I'm saying to people, "What's he going to sing?" I didn't realize that if you wrote the song, I don't care who you're with, you sing it. And he was out of this world, as you said, and he did not say, except 10 seconds at the end, anything negative about Fleetwood Mac. And I mean, that's just the way the God Theater is. I mean, and some of these guys that come in and some of these women that come in are just so talented and so good. I mean, it's just a wonderful thing. I mean, and it's in the right place. You can eat right by there.
But it's also, and I give the Seagulls high marks for having an eclectic mix of performers.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we're a pretty diverse region
Oh,
and
yeah.
community, and they're doing their best to touch everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And they also are very conscious of getting the youth
Oh, yeah.
into that theater, and so they get to experience where
Oh, the
how
Seagulls.
many communities can do that?
Have
Not
you ever
many.
had Steve or his wife on?
Not recently, but I have.
Yeah. And I mean, they are unbelievable, too. Because I always cheer when he comes out and say that little bit of baloney he says.
He's got a dry sense of humor there.
But he's a fan. And you can't say enough about the God Theater. I mean, it's right now it's one of the big central parts of New London. And you know, I mean, and what is an amazing situation is they are bringing so many other people into this area because they have people who come from Stonington, Providence, Willimantic, Norwich, wherever you think, come, and they all go to Tony's. So at some nights at Tony's when there's shows, hard to find someone from New London. You know what I mean? Because they all make reservations, and they all come in. You know, obviously,
No.
I can't say enough.
And the Guard is proof that people will come into New London
Oh yes,
from all over,
yes.
and it's amazing. They find a place to park,
Well,
find a place to eat.
yeah. Well, if you do what you really look into it, there's the other hotel. I forget what his name is now. Has decent meals and more than decent, good
La
food.
Luna down there at the Holiday.
Yeah, they have good food. What am I crying about decent? But I'm telling you, and you know, maybe I'm pro to Tony. But then there's Tony's, which has all kinds of parking. So you have the La Luna. What more can you ask for? I mean, if you want to eat somewhere and you want to park, you're right there. And if you park at either one of those two places, you're right on the road going home. No matter if you're going over the bridge or where you're going to go. But the shows at the Guard are just unbelievable. And you know, I mean, and I'm so glad they took it over, and what they do, and they should be commended because, like you say, the shows they go out and get. Every show is something that they're having. Because
the thing, I mean, you know, Steve is almost. I mean, he came into New London in the mid-'80s,
Yep.
30, 35 years ago. And he's almost too talented to be here. I mean, he could
Oh,
be in Providence or Boston
Oh, yeah.
or New York even. And he came here and he stayed here.
Yep.
And, we should be, thank our lucky stars.
Well, because, see, to him also, if he was running the Providence Civic Center, he'd have less control. You'd almost have to bring in shows. Then you got, but
Well,
he
you
had,
got the Providence Performing Arts Center, which is a
Yeah.
similar
yes, you're 100% right there. He could
theater
do that.
to the Guard.
Yeah.
And that's right next to Johnson and Wales.
Yeah, but see, what he does is magnificent. He and the staff of people who he has, and they come in, and it's kind of funny where each act, as subtitled in where they're talking in the act, let's say, where they ate that night. You know what I mean? And then you just think, oh, I remember that, the blue hen, the blue duck, the whatever, you know what I mean? And, yeah. And it's kind of a situation where before they perform, they take part in a little bit of New London, which is neat. And New London is always trying to figure out how to become better when if we just hold on to what we have, we'll find out we're more than good enough. Because if you think of some of the restaurants that have had situations closed or whatever, if they were still open, how things would be.
Yeah. Well, what the Central Business District needs is the vacancy downtown is appalling, quite frankly. I mean,
Yes.
it's roughly 50%.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
needs.
before you go on, I want you people to know that he's just not saying this because 10 days ago he was on the Lee Elsie show. And he said this, and he did research with this other person. So please, please, people, no, I'm not saying this facetiously. Listen to Marty. It's not one person's opinion. It's how he's researched this thing. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, but we have, outside of restaurants and bars/clubs, I mean, there's not many small businesses functioning down there. You got Studio 33, run by Sarah Monroe, and she does a terrific job. And you've got Charlotte Hennigan's flower shop, and Flavors of Life, and there's not a lot of other small entrepreneurial type of
Is
business.
there anything on State Street coming down from the
Well,
garden?
again, that's where Charlotte Hennigan's
Yeah.
flower shop is on Lower State, and you've
Yeah.
also got Tony Suarez's jewelry store.
Yes.
But it requires small businesses of that type, which require a really dedicated business people, who are going to create that environment that you've got in, let's say, Portsmouth, New Hampshire,
Yes.
or Newburyport, or in Portland, Maine, who are going to fill these storefronts and have people who are willing to put in that yeoman effort it requires. Because you're not going to get a downtown big box. You're not going to get Walmart downtown New London or Target.
We used to have
down-
Sears.
And you don't, and you really don't want that. Because right now, we don't have any real foot traffic downtown to speak of. And there is a perception problem that New London has, and the mayor has got blinders on, as far as I'm concerned, with this issue. In that, because he feels personally comfortable and safe in downtown New London, therefore everybody should. However, in his position, I think he has a responsibility to view the community not only through his own eyes, but through the eyes of everybody else. And if they're not comfortable, why are they not comfortable? What can we do to make it better?
Can I ask you a question,
Sure.
just to digress for a minute? Isn't that what politics is, to find out how everybody else feels?
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
The year that I had the privilege of serving as mayor, we had an overnight trip to Newburyport, Portland, and Portsmouth.
Oh, God.
That was sponsored by New London Main Street, which doesn't exist anymore. And Tony Silvestri, who's no longer really active in our community, he was kind of the driver of this. And the reason for going to those three communities is they're all waterfront communities, and they've all had some level of urban renewal. But they've turned the corner and have come back. And to go up and visit and see what they're doing, and to see what we could be trying to capture or recapture. And one of the things that I was fascinated by with Portland, Maine in particular, is that in their development office, I mean, they've got personnel on the road that's out recruiting. They're looking for, geez, Mike, you got a great business, and we think that you'd be a good asset to our community. And here's what we bring to the table, and have a dossier with you of all the neat things that we do, our history, our beaches, our schools, our colleges, the river, electric boat, Pfizer, etc. And we think that you'd be a good fit in our community, as opposed to being passive and sitting back and waiting for them to come to us.
Yeah, I say, hey, could you come in here? I'm going to say one thing, though. You have made a perfect example, because the only place that I see anything like that in New London is a trifecta of, one, the God Theater, which brings people to New London. Two, Tony D's, a restaurant they'll go to and a place they may park. The hotel, which is down to, what's the name of the hotel?
It's Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn, plus La Luna, which schedule a lot of their meals, as does Tony's, so the people can get out and get to the show.
Sure.
Those three places, Holiday Inn, because the only reason I didn't know name is because there's been a few different names. But
Well, it was Ramada. It was Ramada in it for years.
Yeah.
When Langfield
but with the La Luna restaurant, Tony D's restaurant, the God Theater, everybody programs together, gives play. And you know something? People come in, and they're happy going to the God Theater. You know what I mean? It's like they, not, oh man, I couldn't find a place to eat. Everything is set up in that little trifecta there, who will benefit each other. And I think it's a good situation. And I think you got to say that the people that own the Holiday Inn, or the Run It, or the people on La Luna's, Tony D's, and the Seagulls work very hard for that to happen.
Absolutely. And I also think we need to give kudos to the hygienic. I mean, who would have thunk that that little 24-hour restaurant, which was this close to the wrecking ball for a parking lot, would become the anchor of the art community in New London.
Oh yes, downstairs.
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just absolutely amazing.
A good friend of mine, who used to be vice provost of UConn, he writes plays all over the world, and he programs them all there, and they are so good. That when he starts them off there, and then he'll go on to Spain, or he'll go on to, and it is such a good situation. Like the hygienic, I'm not a big play person, but I'll go see his plays there, and it's kind of neat. And there are things in New London which we should look at and try to emulate, rather than criticize things that we don't like.
No, I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, we have historical sites that other communities would.
What would you pay to be standing up by CVS in New London and look down that hill to see the Groton Monument?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, what a sight that is. And to think about Benedict Donnelly stood there, okay, and the different things that you deal with. I mean, and it's like,
listen, we've got, but the different sites don't all play well together. I mean, we've got the mill under the bridge. You've got the burial ground. You've got Whale Oil Row. You've got the courthouse. You've got Shaw Mansion.
Which George Washington slept.
The Hempstead houses. Fort Trumbull. I mean, it's just the Custom House.
Yes.
Nathan Hale.
The little red building.
I mean, we should be promoting
The train station.
That we have these places, and people could tailor a half a day or a day trip to spend in New London,
Oh, easily.
and there are things to do.
Yes, there are. And the thing, the thing that amazes me is how famous Nathan Hale is as a person of what he did. Around here, he's not as well known because older people know who he is, but you would think if our kids go to the school, they would know.
Yeah, I'm not sure our kids are getting a New London.
Another one is, who's Winthrop? John Winthrop. He founded our city. But again, you have the situation where, only people go. But I mean, Nathan Hale was as good an American as you'll find. John Winthrop founded New London. So there's much here, it's like you had alluded to, okay? There's Ocean Beach, if you want to come. There's electric boat on both sides of the river, which make the primary things, or the submarines, the thing. But I wonder what, and this is no conflict at all with EB, I wonder what it would be like if they had a ferry that went across between the two EBs.
Well, it's interesting. In the summer months, we actually have the
Yes.
Thames River Heritage Park, and
Yes,
they
we
do
do.
have that. It's not a ferry; it's more of a what do they call it? They got a boat that goes
Yes.
to over to Groton, over by
Yes.
the fort, and then to City Pier,
Yep.
and then over to Fort Trumbull.
Yes.
So there are 3 stops.
Yeah. But it would be.
Like a water taxi, I guess.
Yes,
is
water taxis, 100%. And that's the thing. I mean, there are so many things. I mean, and we want to thank them all for still doing what they do. Because there's some people like Miss Hennigan and all the Seagulls and all of the people around here, names we're going to forget.
They work hard.
For New London. That's why this show is on. And that's why we got to keep green and gold for New London's colors. If someone can explain to me why green and gold is not sufficient, please let me know. Okay, I'm around. I mean, not hard to find. If I'm not here, you could call me up and call me an idiot on the Lee Elsie show when I'm on there or whatever. So I'm not hard to find. But I'm telling you, there are things in New London that make me so happy. And there are people in New London who complain so much. If I could ever get them to find what makes me so happy and we could join this thing together, we could be what we used to be. And there's nothing wrong. Some things don't have to be changed to the extent of which people think.
Michael, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Yeah.
End 2023, and wish you a happy new year for
You
2024.
And I'm going to tell you one thing. Radio stations, be aware, because Marty and I are going to want to do some football, basketball, and baseball on your shows next week. So if you own a radio station, we'll be calling you.
All righty. Folks, you've been watching City Focus. Happy New Year, and we'll see you next week. Good night.